Austin Andrews here with your beacon. Today we're taking a look at election security, burnt mailboxes, votes left unattended, and fraudulent registrations. As we approach a contentious election that is now just days away, the question of security becomes an unimaginable task, not only to secure the results of the people's will, but to do so in a way that will allow most Americans to trust the outcome. This may seem an impossible task, but it gets harder as more and more shenanigans seem to be creeping up. Many situations have now occurred around the United States in the lead-up of the presidential election to cause concerns. Some of these issues are happening in swing states, others are happening in party strongholds, but every instance can now erode the confidence in the result. One of the instances took place outside Minneapolis, where an election worker left nearly a dozen boxes of ballots in a vehicle's trunk, with the trunk open at City Hall in the city of Edina. The election worker has now been fired. Votes are required to follow a strict chain of custody, where they are to be handed off and signed on by election workers. Votes that lose this chain of custody are highly suspect, and with these votes being left in a vehicle unattended and in an unsecure area, that of an outdoor parking lot near City Hall, there are questions of authenticity. The vehicle was within view of a surveillance camera the entire time, and the local election office has released 18 minutes of footage that begins before the minivan parked and runs continuously until the minivan pulled away. A man can be seen in the video approaching the trunk, which is open at the time, and it looks like the man snapped a photo, the very photo that we see in articles covering this topic. The problem is, could he have done more? The Election Commission is claiming that the video shows no tampering, and the boxes show no tampering, so they should still be counted. Now, another situation, this time in Minnesota, involves a liberal-aligned person who walks up to a mail-in ballot box drop location. Think of a wall-mounted tall mailbox, and this person took a few seconds to put their hands on the top and sides of the mailbox. They seemed to be trying to move it with some force. Then they take a photo and they walk away. Now, this could be absolutely harmless, or it could be someone casing out the security of a ballot drop location. The actions were caught on camera, and they could suggest shenanigans. Later, the Democratic Party of the local community stated the individual is an employee of their campaign committee, and it was just a routine check of the security of the drop location. Of course, without knowing that ahead of time, the camera caught what could be misconstrued and unfortunate. Now, there's two more situations we're going to talk about in this video, but these are a little bit harder to be gracious in our explanations, as a traditional steel mailbox in Arizona, one of those blue drive-up ones, had its contents set ablaze. That's right, folks. We're talking a regular mailbox, so it wasn't just ballots that were affected, but at least 20 ballots have been identified as being affected in the fire. Now, the fire motivation is under investigation, but it is arson that was committed by a man, and the man is stating that he wanted to go to jail. Now, this close to an election, especially an election that is this contentious, that some people are saying could be the difference between our country going to civil war or not. That man says, it's not politics. I just want to go to jail. And many are questioning whether they can believe his words or not. Now, I've heard on other news shows where they have covered this story and they missed the fact that he admitted to the arson and that he is stating it's not political. They reported on the story, and they reported on the story either before these details were available or they missed it in their coverage. While he may unintentionally have done this in a political time, he may have done it because he did, as an individual, want to go back to jail. Maybe living on the street, wanted food. You don't necessarily understand all the motivations in an event like this. But while this may not be political, I guess there's room for it not to be. What happens to the 20 votes that were affected? We're talking about Arizona. There are parts of Arizona where 20 votes could be the difference. Now, the final situation is one out of Pennsylvania. This one unmistakably political. In the final hours of the voter registration, a push of 2,500 registrants triggered a fraud check in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Local District Attorney Heather Adams gave a record of what occurred.
On Tuesday afternoon, I was contacted by Krista Miller, who is our Chief Clerk of Elections, regarding potentially fraudulent voter registration applications that had recently been received by her office. At that time, she informed me that the Elections Office received approximately 2,500 applications at or near the deadline for registering to vote. While preparing to process these applications, staff noticed that numerous applications appeared to have the same handwriting, were filled out on the same day with unknown signatures, and some were previously registered voters, and the signatures on file did not match the signatures on the application. So before I begin to summarize our preliminary findings, I must remind everyone that this is an ongoing investigation, and for that reason, I will be limited in the details that I can provide. Lancaster County detectives began investigating the voter registration applications and immediately found applications that were indeed fraudulent. Indicators of fraud included inaccuracies with the addresses listed on the applications, false personal identification information, as well as false names. A number of the applications also contained names that did not match the provided Social Security information. In some cases, applications contained correct personal identification information, such as the correct address, correct phone number, date of birth, driver's license number, and Social Security number. But the individuals listed on the applications informed detectives that they did not request the form, they did not complete the form, and verified that the signature on the form was not theirs. At this point, it is believed that the fraudulent voter registrations are connected to a large-scale canvassing operations for voter registrations that date back to June. However, the majority of the applications received are dated August 15th and after. Those canvassing for voter registrations were employed and paid to obtain voter registration applications. The majority of the applications were from residents in the city of Lancaster. However, applications were also received from residents in Columbia, Elizabethtown, Mountjoy, Akron, Ephrata, Stevens, Strasburg, as well as other locations across Lancaster County. The canvasses themselves took place at various shopping centers, parking lots of grocery stores and businesses, sidewalks, and parks. During this preliminary investigations, detectives were able to verify some of the applications were indeed legitimate. In these instances, the applicant verified that they did provide information to a canvasser. For these applications, we will immediately advise voter registration and that we confirm that they are legitimate requests, and voter registration will process that application. Thus far, of the investigations that we have completed, we have determined that 60% have been fraudulent. That is of the investigations that we've completed. We do have more to do today, and my understanding is that voter registration is still going through the box of 2,500, but should be completed sometime here today.
The local district attorney mentioned that this was not the only county that saw this as a scam or a possible potential fraudulent action. Now, thank goodness for these election office employees that raised the flag on applications that needed investigating. 1,500 fraudulent votes may have just been caught in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania Election Commission, and that begins to add up fast. Now, all eyes are on this election, and we do want fair elections, but these situations that are popping up seem to be pushing both sides to distrust the results. And that may also be the point as well. What if one motivation in legacy media is to continue to divide people along racial lines, along religious lines, and along political lines? There's something to consider as we do our civic duty and we show up and vote. Early voting continues in my home county currently, and I hope that you understand that your vote matters. I'm Austin Andrews, and I'll see you on the next report.